Good morning and welcome to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals across multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from Facebook, thank you so much for doing so today. Don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing how to protect yourself from investment scams in Trinidad and Tobago. And as some of us may have seen in news, this is not a Trinidad and Tobago problem, but definitely it is very important for us to have this in a local context. And today, our guests are Kester Guy and Jaime Thomas. Kester is the Chief Executive Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Securities Exchange Commission. He also held roles as a senior economist at the Central Bank of Barbados, as well as an economist. Oh, that word always messed me up. At the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. We're also joined by Jaime. She is the Senior Financial Research Officer, Market Regulations and Surveillance at the Trinidad and Tobago Securities Exchange Commission. And in her current role, she supervises and conducts inquiries into suspected market misconduct, such as insider trading. So that is a mouthful, and that's why these folks are here to join us to share their expertise. Welcome, Kester and Jaime. How are you today? Am I?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Good morning.
Oh, yes.
Good
In
morning.
2025, we still
Yeah.
have that. Can you hear me now? Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Good morning. Thank you for
Uh,
Yeah.
having us.
okay, well, thanks for joining us again. I mean, I don't know wait, oh gosh, I didn't say Happy New Year. When do we stop that? Because I think it's fair to say Happy New Year. But Happy New Year to everybody and welcome again to 2025. And I want to have this conversation because it was interesting. I heard in the international news that a French lady got duped into giving someone posing as Brad Pitt money. And I share that story so folks out there don't feel a type of way because obviously there's shame associated with this. But let's just go straight in terms of the red flags because a lot of us are spending time online. I see the numbers. I see us hunched over our phones. What is, I want one from each one of you guys. What is the most common red flag?
Mm.
Okay.
Jimmy, I'll allow you to start. Good.
No problem. I think one of the common red flag with any investment opportunity or anything that someone proposes to you is the promise of exceptionally high returns. I think, as the saying goes, if it's too good to be true, it likely is. And scammers normally promise extraordinary high returns with little or no risk. I would have given this example only last time. Persons might say invest 1,000 and earn 8,000 within 24 hours, and they often use these lines to entice individuals to invest. So always look out for the promise of exceptionally high returns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
I wanna just before you add to that, Kester, I wanna ask Jaime something because I think we take for granted that we know what you're talking about. So, and for me,
Sure.
even for in terms of a high return, what does that even mean? Because some of us, hi,
Mhm.
didn't grow up with parents who shared about investment and what how do we even start when you talk about this percentage? Because if I'm saving, I'm just like, all right, I'll just put it in the bank and eventually I'll make good savings. But what does that percentage look like? Where do we even find that information?
Well, I will always say, compare, look at well-known stocks, look at what is the deposit, the interest rate on a fixed deposit, what is the interest rate you get when you put your money in a mutual fund, and you could compare that rate, which is normally I think 2%, to the rate that someone is promising you on an investment. So in the case of 1,000 to earn 8,000 in 24 hours. I mean, that's even more than 100%. And off the bat, by that simple comparison, it will raise a red flag that this is song too good. It is sounding unrealistic. So simple as comparing your banks, what you will earn if you put your money in the bank, or what you will earn from investing in another stock, are some of the ways that persons can utilize some of the resources persons can utilize in terms of determining if a return is high.
Okay, thanks for that, Jamie. And for those who
No.
are just joining us, anything that we discuss here, be sure to subscribe. If you check in the comments, no matter where you're watching this, you'll see a link to subscribe to our live shows, and we will send you links to what has been discussed today. So, Kester, can you share your red flag as well, please?
Oh, sure. And you told me only one, right? Because as
Yeah.
There's so many. There's so many. Yeah.
there are quite a few. And
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah.
so maybe what I can do, I'll just list out a couple things,
Couple.
and then
Yeah.
I'll speak to one, and allow you or the audience to raise any queries around any other things that were mentioned. So as Jamie said, a guarantee of high returns. There's another red flag is a constant push to act immediately, do it now. These are one-off occasion or limited time and things like that. It's often that another red flag will be a lack of transparency in and around that investment that they are promoting. What really is it? Whether the investment or the sponsors of the investment are in fact licensed or registered. That's something that all our investors should be mindful of. Whether or not there is contracts given to you when you go into these arrangements. Are you doing it in a contractual way? Are you given terms that you can read and be clear as to what you are doing? And oftentimes you will see considerations about being complicated strategies or secretive approaches to different things. And a common one to look out for is the use of or the need to be able to bring others along with you.
With you.
Yeah. And so I will just pause and just the high level there and just allow the conversation to flow.
Okay, so it's easy for some of us to sit and talk about things that we need to look out for in terms of red flags. But when you're in a dire position, for whatever reason or circumstances that you may be in, a lot of us project a reality that does not exist. So when it comes to trying to get rich fast, and looking out for these red flags, is there sort of an internal dialogue that you suggest that someone has? And I say dialogue, but it'll be a monologue if I think about it. But you know what I mean? Is there a conversation that needs to be had? What's the first question should that person ask themselves?
You're right. Everybody wants to get the biggest return on whatever their investment is. It's natural, it's normal. But why the red flags are important is because here you have limited resources, and in this case, money to give you some type of return. Your biggest issue is, if I undertake this investment, am I able to get the returns that have been promoted? Or is it that I'm going to downright lose my money that that is scarce? And that is the question that each person have to answer. What is the risk that I'm getting involved in? Because if Paula, with some finite resource you have, you know upfront that if you undertake this, you are losing, you will lose. The question is, will you undertake it? The issue comes with which stage in this process you are. And so this is what these promoters would prey on, because oftentimes they promise persons that if you get in early, you'll be able to get out whatever it is. And so you take that bet, you hedge that bet. But do you really know? Do you really know? It's only in hindsight you can look back and say, if I did know. Well, we are arming you with the tools so that you can undertake your own litmus test to determine whether or not this is something that might be deemed appropriate for you and whether or not you are prepared to deal with the consequence of loss.
Okay, so I've heard something similar when it comes to starting a business, because there's a very high number of percentage of businesses that fail within the first 2 to 3 years. So you have to ask yourself, am I able to recover from that failure? So the reality is, when we're having this discussion around investment, are you saying that the person should ask themselves, if I lose this money, what position am I going to be in after?
Yeah, so two things here, right? In terms of normal business and whether or not you can recover, the circumstances around that is slightly different from the fact that you are dealing with or treating with what might be considered a scam. So you have a business, you have a legitimate, you're undertaking a business project, you're undertaking the relevant prudential or due diligence, and you're doing the appropriate things that you need to do to make sure the business has a successful life. Circumstances may run and lead to the business not being successful, and you lose. So that's one thing. But in this context that we're speaking, we are talking about people who are setting up models to lure people with the intention of scamming, because that is the end game in all of these types of fraud and scamming events. So the question that you have to ask yourself is not just whether or not I'm losing, it's whether or not I'm knowingly going into something that is set up to scam me. And that creates, are we giving you the red flag to help you to determine whether or not you are in fact participating in something that is set up to scam you.
Okay, that's a lot to actually process, because we're also living in a time of instant gratification, and we've heard this term a few times, and we've actually seeing it into the comment section as well by Dr. Wilton in LinkedIn, which is due diligence, right? So in a time and an age of due diligence, what does that even mean? Because we are looking to have that instant hit of dopamine every time we're on social media, clicking images, clicking videos, happy to see someone is posting their new Instagram reel. So when it comes to due diligence, and I want you guys to think about this because we're going to go on a quick break, what does that mean in the context of this new digital age? Because a lot of us are signing up and giving our information without even thinking about it, and then giving away our money, and then we're obviously, at a loss for words and feelings when it happens. So we're going to go on a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to expand a bit on due diligence. We'll be right back.
Sure.
And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us from LinkedIn today, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing how to protect yourself from investment scams in Trinidad and Tobago. And we're joined by Kester and Jaime from the Trinidad and Tobago Securities Exchange Commission. So just before the break, we had a back and forth conversation. We included a comment section, a comment we had in LinkedIn, and we want to have this conversation around due diligence because I think it's something that we all need in every aspect of our lives, but even more so when it comes to our money. So Jamie, you wanna take a stab at it?
Sure, no problem. So, due diligence really is the process of thoroughly doing research, investigating, evaluating an investment opportunity. So, looking into it, doing proper research. Before anyone commits to doing an investment, they should do proper due diligence. And it really helps an individual in making an informed decision. I know Mr. Guy would have talked about the one of the red flag is being this high pressure of being pushed into getting into an investment. This due diligence process helps mitigate that, where you sit, you research, you go to different sources of information, and you assess the risk, which Mr. Guy would have also spoken about. You assess the potential risks of getting of engaging in this investment, and this is in conjunction with your risk tolerance. So due diligence, there are many ways. I know we talk about the digital age. There are many ways that someone could do due diligence. And I don't mean to jump the gun, but one is going to a reliable source. And there are many sources, but I would always say the first one is, I know we always on our phones, we go to the phones to Google to find out about a company, or you have to find out about someone, and the first thing they send you is the social media page. But I would always say go to a regulator page, go to an institution page where you can get information that has been researched, has been reviewed, and that could be your someone's first starting point in the whole due diligence process. I'll pause here for Mr. Guy if he wants to add as well.
Yeah, Jamie, you captured it well. But just to continue the discussion, everything that you said, I fully endorse. But here's an opportunity in the context of financial returns and financial services. Opportunities present themselves. First question you're going to ask is, who are these people? Or what is this product? Are these well known? Are these persons reputable? Can you imagine just going and give your hard-earned funds to a total stranger? You didn't know that person, you never met that person, except for your first interface. And you're willing to hand over significant sums of money. Question is, on what basis? And the basis is on a promise. Now, your due diligence, we undertake due diligence in everything we do. If we were to go and purchase a car, a house, any normal asset, we make sure we ask all the right questions, we make sure we follow through, we make sure we talk to a friend, we make sure we talk to somebody who is an expert in the area to give us the appropriate advice so that whatever asset we are pursuing or whatever area of interest we are interested in, we get the biggest benefit for ourselves. It's very similar in financial services. Remember, it's your hard-earned monies. And therefore, before you hand it over in any program or product, you should at a minimum know something about the person or company that is leading this initiative. And so Jamie spoke about whether the person is regulated. What is the history of the person? If me, Kester Guy, not in my capacity of CEO of SEC, but as a private citizen, create this product, and then when you did a Google check, or see my LinkedIn page, you come across known issues pertaining to me being a fraudster. Would you still want to do business with me? And that's just a simple check. Or if you ask somebody and they say, no, Kester, that fellow Kester guy, he is known for doing all these nefarious things. Would you want to do business with me? Would you willingly part ways with your funds, trusting Kester guy based on his reputation? And so, in a sense, that's why we have licensed institutions, reputable institutions that are monitored, that their history is available to the investing public, and so on, so that people can have all information available to them so that they can make the best decisions in their own interest.
Yeah. I just want to add one more thing. I know investors need to also analyze market conditions. Consider the industry landscape that the investment is. Is it an investment in agriculture? An investment in typing machine? Is that industry obsolete? The competition in the industry that the investment is going to be taking place, the market demand for the product or service. These are another point that, an investor in their due diligence should consider the market and economic conditions at that point in time.
Okay. So Jamie had mentioned earlier about checking for social media, and we usually have some form of proof when it comes to social media, but it can't stop there, right? Speaking of which, thank you so much for everybody joining us, Sintra Ramsaram on Facebook. So we're hoping you're a real person as well, but we're pushing forward. So when it comes to doing, going back to the conversation around due diligence and checking up on the legitimacy of investment, what, and I saw this for the Securities and Exchange Commission of Trinidad and Tobago, where you posted, looking out for certain things like your fake profile, fake promises, engagement via messaging. So, a lot of things we take for at face value. And to have this conversation, let's say with your friends and your family and checking up, how important is that?
Oh, that's very important. Sorry, question was to Jamie. Sorry.
No. I just mentioned that she was speaking about it.
You could go ahead. You could go ahead.
Oh, so I'm saying these matters are very, very important. Oftentimes, especially in the area of this digital era, the question is the who we are dealing business with. If something goes wrong, we can identify that person and we can pursue them through whatever channels. But if we have a circumstance where you don't even know who you're doing business with, because everything is in a digital era, and we are conscious that there are all types of profiles, there are all types of programs that can create functional, attractive looking things. We shouldn't be oblivious to the fact and the reality that the digital era allows for a wide range of things to appear well. But at the end of the day, we have to know what each person should ask themselves, what is our recourse? If you go to a named institution and you had a problem with that, you can go into that institution and say, look, this is what I had on my account. These are their transactions. This is what occurred. Those institutions are known, or those persons might be known. They can be accessible. In a digital context, you have to ask yourself, who is that person that you are going to address if there are issues, if you want questions answered pertaining to your investment? That who. And so this is why it's important to make sure you have those conversations, because you part your way with your undertake an activity, but then who is the person that you're going to if you need redress on any issue?
All right, thanks for that, Kester. Jamie, you wanted to add anything?
Nah, I think that's it.
Oh, great. All right, so I want to head over to the comment section right away because Jason has quite an interesting question. He says, I noticed some network marketing companies put emphasis on recruiting people as the main source of income over selling a product. Is this a sign that it might be a scam?
So, okay, Jimmy.
No, I was going to say, no, well, the recruitment is another red flag. And when I hear recruiting, so comes off my head as a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme. And these schemes are similar and they fall under the umbrella of a prohibited scheme. And it's really a type of scam where you use funds received from new investors to pay the initial investors. And it also has another characteristic where you attach recruiting new members to receive high returns, to receive more money. So in my opinion, when I hear recruiting and I hear multi-level marketing and you have different tiers of the investment, with the new amendment to our Securities Act, Section 165A, that's clearly a sign of a prohibited scheme, which is illegal. So I don't know, Mr. C, you want to add there as well? But yes, that it is a red flag, Pauline, and it's something that investors should look out for.
So just to add to Jamie, I would want to just note a slight nuanced issue when coming to network marketing and so on, in relation to sale of products versus financial investments. Network marketing is a widely used phenomenon for product distribution. There are some large distribution chains that are well known across the global landscape on selling products that use this methodology, various types, from makeup to household products and so on. Those in themselves are not necessarily schemes and so on, because they are networks that are selling products. So what a person goes and buys, even within that network, is a product, perhaps a soap, perhaps a piece of furniture, perhaps something. So you're exchanging funds for products, and then you can add persons to the network based on that product sale. I think the major difference when it comes to financial things is you are luring people, telling people to come in, but you're giving your money, and the question is, in exchange for what? And so you have this, and this is what, the entire framework is built on, that is ripe for scams, and we are very cautious. We want to caution persons to be careful. When you are invited to bring in somebody and you promoting that, and you told if you bring several persons, and they all participate, you get a bigger return. But what is this thing that you are receiving when you put in your money? And what makes it complicated now is because there is no transparency behind what it is that you're getting. So if I was buying a product, I know if I come and I purchase some things, I'm getting 6 soaps, 5 bath towels. I'm getting products that I can go and then sell. And so that's a real tangible thing that is happening. That's transparent, that's clear. When we do that in the financial space, what is it that persons are receiving, and what is it that is generating this return that everybody is claiming that is going to be so great? Again, if I'm selling a product, I can say, well, I'm selling these things and this is how I'm getting the return. When it comes to financial assets, what is it that the persons are doing with these funds that is generating these returns? And that remains opaque, and that is a major cause of concern, and persons should be aware of. When you invest in anything, you want to know how am I getting the return that you promised me? How? Am I buying something and selling it back, and it's because I'm selling it back at such a high value I'm getting this return? If that how cannot be explained, we have a major problem, and it's very prevalent in the sale of what is promoted under financial services.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is we need financial literacy and education.
Well, that is always important. I think that's
Yeah.
a fundamental, and a series like these and this facilitation is geared towards providing some form of awareness and education so that people will just know what to look for, what to look at. And there are various mechanisms for to which the regulators, stakeholder interests like BATT, um, and each of the established financial services providers, they have educational platforms to help advise and teach people about their products and the various things alike. If you are going into buying financial services and persons cannot explain their product, the how, the risk, then those are areas for concern as well.
Okay. Well, I think that's a great segue into the next conversation we're going to have, which has to do with you guys' job. What is this that you guys do as the role of financial regulators in Trinidad and Tobago? All these different bodies that fall under this financial conversation, because it takes a village to raise a child, and even when you're an adult, you still need some raising, guys. So, and I speak about myself too, because I learned so much on this program. But we're going to go on a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to ask some questions about the role of financial regulators in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from YouTube, don't forget to just press that like button. I'll wait, but not for too long. So you can continue. You make sure to subscribe to our page so that you can continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing how to protect yourself from investment scams in Trinidad and Tobago with Kester and Jaime from Trinidad and Tobago Securities Exchange Commission. If you miss any of the discussion we've had today, not to worry. Once this live is completed, you could check it on the replay across social media. So just before the break, we want to have a conversation around financial regulation in Trinidad and Tobago. And a lot of us take these things for granted. It's like the internet. We just go on it and just hope that the wires connect wherever they do. And we just want to know that it works, and that's it. But when it comes to the financial sector, there are a lot of twists and turns that a lot of us don't understand. So the first question I want to put out there is, what are the primary financial regulators in Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay. So the primary, sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I'll just start. And so the primary financial regulators in Trinidad and Tobago, I'll start with us, the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. We are the regulators for the securities industry, and we are the regulators to ensure fair practices and investor protection. We monitor companies that are listed on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, as well as mutual funds, other market actors such as broker dealers and financial advisors. And we are here to really enforce the securities laws, and as we would have mentioned before the break, provide education to help investors make an informed decision. The other regulators in Trinidad and Tobago, we have the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, CBTT, and they supervise the banks, insurance companies, non-bank financial institution. They also will ensure that these entities operate soundly and within the financial regulations that oversee them. Again, always protecting the investor, protecting depositors, and in this case, policy holders. And then we have the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad Tobago, the FIUTT, and they're really set up to really combat this issue of money laundering, terrorism, financing, ensuring financial transactions on the whole through the banks systems are done in the legal standard, again, preventing financial crimes. I know there are others, so I'll pause here for Mr. Guy.
So I think you've covered it, Jimmy. Those are the primary responsibilities. The three primary regulators that has responsibility for the financial system. There's some other agencies that play complementary roles that helps protect the overall investors. Deposit insurance is one, the Trinidad and Tobago Deposit Insurance Corporation, for instance. If something goes wrong, that you would have certain access to a minimum amount of funds based on what is in your deposit account. But I'll just leave it there. But broadly speaking, the conduct of financial services is really an orderly process. I don't know if you and the audience can recall 2007, 2008 financial crisis that's triggered in the US, and how this spillover effect impacted even our own countries in the Caribbean. This is a classic case of why operating according to certain standards are important, so that we mitigate the potential problems associated with financial crises, which include major economic fallouts. And so the regulators specialize in their areas, have a nuanced role or varied roles to ensure that business is conducted in an appropriate way. Therefore, when we see persons conducting or claiming to provide financial services that is outside of the parameters that allows for good standards, good governance, good transparency, information flows to investors and so on, we frown upon those. And that's why we will try to target our investors and arm them with the appropriate awareness and education that you should be extremely cautious with persons that are not regulated, because there's nobody guaranteeing your safety and your protection if something should go wrong. And so when we see scammers, when we see things that are not consistent with the standards of sound financial operations, we are concerned.
It's interesting because I believe it's the same concept of investing in a brand, because there's certain brands that you are comfortable with because you know that if something goes wrong, there's a risk involved for that brand. That's why you buy into it. So what I'm hearing, it's something similar, because you want to make sure and have some form of guarantee that if something goes wrong, you could actually just even have a conversation. And that's why I want to ask about, as individuals, how do we use these resources like Trinidad Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission or Central Bank to safeguard ourselves in this conversation? Because if you purchase something, at a store, you could go back and be like, hey, this didn't work as you said. How can we have this conversation? How does that look like within the investment industry?
Okay, I'll take TTSCC, Mr. Guy. So I'll say for individuals, how they can safeguard themselves by leveraging the resources provided by the commission. One, Pauline, I think you would have alluded to it earlier, the investor alerts. I would always tell an investor, stay updated with the warnings and alerts that we put out from time to time about unregistered entities or fraudulent schemes that are prevailing in the market. These alerts are there to warn, are there to guide persons in making their decisions. Mr. Guy would have spoken earlier about the register and, checking with the commission to verify the registration of investment companies, mutual funds, even the advisors, the market actors, that information you can find on our website, and it will aid you in making an informed decision. And then we have our corporate education division that does a lot of educational lectures, and we do a lot of outreach. And persons can access those publications and those financial literacy information, again, all aim to really equip persons to making an informed investment decision.
Yep. Thanks, Jamie. Just
Yeah,
following on.
the CBT.
So all the other regulators generally have, beyond their specific mandates, they will have outreach programs to the public, because we all have a public interest as part of our mandate, making sure the public is aware. Built within our statutes and our framework is certain information that institutions need to provide to the public so that the public can make decisions based on information. Oftentimes, the let's call them the non-traditional or these new and emerging types of business don't provide information. So you are making decisions not with appropriate information that you can choose. And so one of the mandates across all the entities is to make sure that the investing public, depositors, and or the financial population, the population as a whole, have access to information for making the appropriate decisions. If something is promoted out there, and we all have standards that entities must comply with, which we monitor. And if these entities are not compliant with these standards, we can instruct them we can engage them to make sure that they're meeting the standards appropriate for the public interest. Yeah. So as I said, each of these regulators would have its own outreach arm based on the specific concerns the specific financial sector, whether it's insurance, banking, securities, and the appropriate regulator will be able to address any concerns the general public has. Beyond that, I will also mention generally there's a financial ombudsman in which you can make claims to. You can make claims to, particularly if you're banking and you have issues with the bank, you can make those claims. So what I'm saying is, if the investing public or the depositors have concerns about their engagement with their institutions, there is an avenue in which they can lodge those appropriate complaints, and the regulator can leverage its authority to ensure that issues are being appropriately looked at and addressed, because these entities have standards by which they must operate.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for that, Kester. And thanks to Renee on Facebook in the comments. We really appreciate this comment. She says, I watch the videos on YouTube as well as the emails I receive are very informative. Really appreciate that feedback. Good to know that we are sharing some insight into this financial space that we're all trying to navigate. All right. So one of the things I know may seem obvious to a lot of people, but not obvious to some, which is, what is a financial advisor? Because for a lot of people, that might be their grandmother, that might be their dad, that might be the auntie who say, listen, just put 20% aside and spend the rest. What does that look like in a regulatory environment? But we're going to answer that question right after the break. And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from Facebook, like Renee, make sure to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. Today, we're discussing how to protect yourself from investment scams in Trinidad Tobago. And we're joined by Kester and Jaime from the Trinidad Tobago Securities Exchange Commission. If you missed any of this discussion before, and that's okay, once the live is ended, you can check it on a replay across social media. So we're going to bring them back in. And just before the break, we're having this discussion around, what is the role of financial regulators in Trinidad and Tobago? But we want to have a more direct conversation around a financial advisor, because some of us may look for financial advice from our family. Some of us may not have gotten any financial advice whatsoever. But when it comes to, doing this thing the right way in terms of being regulated and working with a company, let's start off with the most simplistic of conversations. What is a financial advisor? Who wants to take the first jab at this one?
All right, I'll start. In simple, a financial advisor is really a professional, an expert in that field who really provides you with guidance and advice on a financial matter, and is all really geared to help you, the investor, in really achieving your financial goal. Again, all comes down to making an informed decision, and they play a critical role in verifying investment opportunities on behalf of their clients. And there are a number of things that they can do to assist you, an investor. They can help you with the due diligence process. So they can really perform the comprehensive checks, check to see if the investment is legitimate. They can even provide you with their expert guidance. I mean, they are supposed to be experts in the field. They can advise you in terms of your financial goal, if the investment that you are looking at really aligns with your financial goal and your risk tolerance, and again, all with the current economic and market conditions. And they help you as well to really assess the information that you have before you. So, your person, a trusted friend or relative may have come to you with an investment opportunity, and they may help you assess that information, and they may help you with looking at the industry, at if that particular investment in that industry is regulated, and they can help you go through all the various databases. And in doing all of the aforementioned steps, they really help you identify. It can help you identify any red flags, and warn you if that investment is really not legitimate, and it could be and if it is a potential scam. So a financial investor, in conclusion, is really that person who leverage their expertise to assist an investor, their client, in making an informed decision, again, all with their financial goals, their risk tolerance.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Jaime. I want to head over to the comments because we're closing off soon, and I want to be able to answer the questions. Sheldon wants to know, if you suspect someone is operating a scam, who do you contact or report it to?
Jamie?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So if you believe that someone is operating a scam or a fraudulent scheme, or for persons on your life, if you think you have fallen victim to an investment fraud, you can file a report with the Trinidad Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. There are many avenues. First, you could submit a report via the Investor Protection Complaints online form, which can be found on our website, that is www.ttsec.org.tt. Alternatively, if you have a smartphone, you can download the Investor Protection mobile app from the Play Store if you have an Android device, and from the App Store if you have an Apple device. Once you download the app, you can navigate to the Submit a Complaint section, and there you will find the option to lodge a complaint using the online complaint form. Or you can simply send your tip or your scam, or if you suspect a suspicious investment offering, to the market complaints at ttsec.org.tt email. Let me just repeat that again: market complaints at ttsec.org.tt, and an officer will look at it and reach out to you. So those are the ways someone could report a suspicious investment offering. We also have walk-in. They could walk into our office, or they could call us at 624-2991.
All right, and all the links that we're being discussed today will be posted in the comment section. So you could just head over to our YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn pages, and you will check it out. Kester, you wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, I wanted to say it's important that we have persons making these contributions to help us to fight against these fraudulent activities. The general population see all types of things. We encourage you to reach out to us, and we have our own internal process to make sure that we can follow through and make sure that we minimize these fraudulent activities happening within our society. So please use our tools, reach out to us, and give us relevant tips so that we can take decisive action in addressing these serious issues.
Okay, so we have a couple minutes left, and I wanted to have a conversation around the shame that happens after someone has been scammed. Most recently, as I started off the conversation earlier today, there was someone from France who was scammed out of near million US of her savings because she is a little over 50 and had recently just joined Instagram and was reached out by a celebrity, Brad Pitt, who, as far as she understood, and this was her new, because it was social media for her was new, it was literally years and years long of scamming her out of money. And after she has admitted this online, there's been a wave of just really ridiculous amount of comments and shame assigned to it. And I think it's important to have these discussions, because if you throw shame behind it, no one's going to want to report it. So when it comes to this conversation around being duped, and feeling a certain type of way, what kind of advice would you give to someone who has been scammed out of money in Trinidad and Tobago?
Look, we understand the shame. I mean, and I can tell you, I spoke with somebody, a young lady who was very clear. She was duped out of $20,000. She told me, and she expressed that similar shame that you're speaking about. And the the notion of shame continues, as you say, to be prohibitive because people don't want to be exposed. But on one hand, we want to encourage people to come forward. This type of scamming is one type of criminal activity. There are many other types of criminal activities where people are ashamed of, but we are encouraging you to come forward and share your experience with the relevant authorities and provide us with as much information as possible. You coming forward and you sharing and you providing us with information can help save our community, can help save our nation, because we have a process, as I said, for further investigating and bringing the things into corrective action. It's similar. Sometimes you might hear things happening and the police is asking people for information. This is not financial crime. I'm talking generally. You might hear on the news the police is seeking the whereabouts of somebody and asking people for information. When people come forward and bring information to the relevant authorities, the cumulative tips that I received are very helpful in helping us to solve and come to conclusion on particular matters. So that's an encouragement to all persons. We treat all matters in a high degree of confidentiality, and we ourselves are sensitive to the fact of the shame and try to do our very best to make your experience not aggravate your experience. So we understand, we know that, but we want you to come forward. We are encouraging you to come forward. Talk to some close person who can accompany you or something to help us. This is not an individual fight, it's a collective fight, and we all need to play a little part in it to be able to bring resolution to this matter. So my strong encouragement is to all, if you have any type of information, or you yourself have been subject to any of these types of things, please come forward and we will treat you with the level of professional courtesy that is deserved while we try to resolve this issue.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Kester. And Jaime, is there any advice you'd give to someone in terms of they're suspected that they've been scammed? Who should they call? What's the first person they should call in terms of the Regulatory Board of Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, I would say if it's a scam and it relates to one of the market actors or entities that we regulate, any company that is on the stock exchange, mutual funds, or market actors like broker dealers, investment advisors, I would say immediately you could make a report to the Trinidad Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. If it relates to banks or an insurance company, you could make your report to the central bank. There's also the ombudsman that Mr. Guy would have mentioned earlier. You could also make a report there. And then you have the FIU. If it's, you suspect, again, a fraudulent ring, you could also go there as well. But obviously come to the Trinidad Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission if in doubt, and we will take it. And if so be, we could also direct where need be.
All right. And I think on that note, I think we can say thank you so much for joining us today. The conversation around, how to protect yourself from investment scams in Trinidad and Tobago with Kester and Jaime from the Trinidad and Tobago.
I don't know if you all,
Okay, so thanks again for everyone joining us today. I want to shout out to folks in the comment section. Yes, Cynthia, thanks a lot for sharing, as well as Renee. We are taking your comment into note, and for future live shows, we will definitely come to you on sharing more words that are in terms of layman terms, because a lot of things that we're sharing here, a lot of folks may not know, so we want to continue having these conversations. So thanks again for joining us today on how to protect yourself from investment scams in Trinidad and Tobago. And thanks again to our guests, Kester and Jaime from the Trinidad and Tobago Securities Exchange Commission. As always, be sure to like and follow our page across social media. so you don't miss a single live show. And next week, we're having a conversation that you guys completely loved last year. So we're bringing it back. We're talking about mortgages in Trinidad and Tobago. Super excited because all of us are trying to own that piece of land. Okay? So thanks again for joining us, and I'll see you next week. Bye.